Hello guys, Dan here from the Gamers Hub, bringing you a preview of Flaggers! And if you weren't aware, yes, sheep do wear purple hats and capes. And they do actually have a purpose, which I will get into, so don't think that I'm just doing this because Vaughn made me or anything. Anyway, so Flockers, a game that is made by Team 17, the guys that have brought us the lovable Worms franchise over the years. And this game is based in the same universe. But this time you're here to aid the escape of the sheep, starting with levels inside what looks like to be the Worms weapon factory. Now, the first thing I notice is the gameplay sort of reminds me of Lemmings, but just a bit more darker and gruesome and less forgiving. So, the sheep spawn at one point, and you obviously have to get them to another, which then gets them out of the level. And this is done by a retro-looking vacuum that sucks them sucks them to the next level, where you can then continue on. The maps, which are full of traps and obviously get progressively harder as you go on, are full of all sorts of hazards. And you can also pick up boxes along the way which have certain abilities, like this purple hat that I'm wearing and this cape. And there is another one, but I won't do that because that will be slightly messy and probably ruin my brilliant sign behind. So the first ability I talk about is the purple beanie hat, which I'm wearing on my head right now. It doesn't give me the ability, I don't think, or I haven't tried it, but it gives the sheep the ability to jump over gaps, meaning they obviously won't fall to their death. And the red cape, as you can see, which allows the sheep to turn to super sheep and fly at walls. Obviously, if they don't have that, they sort of just hit the wall back on themselves and then die, usually. Or just get stuck there. Which doesn't really matter, because all the levels I played, you only need to get one sheep across. Which didn't really do much for the 3-star rating system for me. I got probably like 5th of a star. But still, I completed the level. And one of the last abilities that they have at the moment is explosions, which obviously I can't do, and that basically just suicides your sheep into making a massive explosion, which is usually used to destroy boxes and certain objects so you can fall down to the next part, or to move certain objects which are upright and obviously the explosion hits them and it falls down. So various different ways. Along with that, you've also got releasing the sheep if you've stopped them, and also you can get them to create stairs where they sort of jump on top of each other, or barriers, which means you can lock your sheep in sort of a part of the map so you can work out the rest of it before you just send them off to their death. And one of the first things I noticed was the way that the sheep move. They sort of bounce along as if they're sort of really happy and jolly and smiley and loving life, really, until you come along and you obviously are probably going to be quite incompetent and probably kill most of them, which isn't good because they make a horrible sound when they die. And also the blood effect is pretty extreme and slightly funny in a really bad way. But yeah, as I did say, you only needed one sheep to complete the level, which is good enough for me. But yeah, with the rating system of each level with the 3 stars, you don't get very far with one sheep. I mean, so yeah, if you have the urge to save a few more fluffy friends, you can always retry and beat your high score. Probably not. So the start of the game at the beginning, where you're in the factory, but it does obviously progress outside, is pretty dark. I mean, you can see all the worms in the background with rockets and weapons and everything. And something I did notice was there was a pause button. Now, I thought maybe with the pause button I could then just sort of place everything that I wanted to place and plan it out, but really only just look in pause. You can't do anything. So it's good for sort of pausing and looking ahead, but I was hoping you could place in advance, but I guess that would sort of be cheating because you could just place everything. Although saying that, you do have to pick the boxes up along the way that have different abilities in, so actually me saying that is totally irrelevant because you can't, because you don't have the abilities. But yeah, pausing is good to look at the level. Also, as the game progresses, instead of having one spawn point where your sheep are, you have like multiple spawn points, which means you have to look at 2 places at once, which isn't exactly that easy. I mean, I know you have 2 eyes, so one for each spawn point, but it doesn't really work like that when you have one screen. Because if you're like me, I can only look at one place with 2 eyes. I can't look like left and right at the same time. So it does get a little bit tricky, and yeah. Oh, and if you are feeling slightly more heroic, you can pick up the golden sheep, which is trapped in a little cage, and is just a collectible item that you can go out your way to get, but pretty much means you have to devote all your attention to it, and you're probably going to lose a fair few sheep. Overall, I'd say the worst part is when you've flocked up pretty bad and all you can do is watch your sheep sort of just happily bounce along to their red demise. It's not a happy experience. It may be funny at times, but it's not how you complete the level, sadly. Apart from that, I would like to see a couple more abilities for the sheep, as I did feel it was sort of limited, but also because it was quite limited, you then had to be creative if you sort of got stuck. I mean, at one point, it said to use explosions to project your sheep up onto the next level. I couldn't do that, so instead of the explosions, I just sort of built a stairway with sheep. Obviously, if there was more of a range of things, it might not have been that difficult. Aside from that, it looks pretty good so far, Team 17. The game is going to be a sadistic, bloody puzzler with a crude sense of humour that we are all too familiar with Worms. So be sure to check the game out on Steam, it's currently in early access. Thank you for watching this preview, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Minus most of this, I mean this is pretty hot to wear, especially in front of 2 massive lights.